In this video, we are going to see how to deploy WML-CE or PowerAI containers using IBM Cloud Private. We are at the login console for IBM Cloud Private, and I will log into the dashboard for ICP. Once we log into the dashboard, we see that this ICP cluster has 3 nodes, and out of these 3 nodes, one of the nodes or worker nodes is a GPU server, which we are going to use to deploy our PowerAI containers. To first deploy the PowerAI container, we need to have the Docker image for PowerAI, which can be downloaded from the Docker Hub. You can go to this link on the Docker Hub and see which image you want to download based on the tag assigned to it. You can take the latest image available and you can use Docker pull to get the image onto the server. In my case, I have already downloaded the image onto my server and I have uploaded that to my ICP registry. So I'm going to use this image to deploy my container and see how we can enable our PowerAI environment. To deploy the container, I'll go to the ICP catalog where I can see the Helm chart available for PowerAI. I'm going to use this Helm chart and configure my deployment based on the configuration options given in the Helm chart. You can read through the various options available in the configuration for this Helm chart before you go and deploy this. I'm going to go and configure this for my deployment. My Helm release, I'll name it as PowerAI iteration 1, and I'm going to use default namespace and enable or accept the license. I will also configure some other parameters for my deployment. I'm going to specify the image which I'm going to use to deploy this container. And here I'm using PowerAI 1.5.3 image. This is the name of the image and the tag associated with it, which I have downloaded from the Docker Hub. I'm not specifying any port number here right now. You can specify the dynamic provisioning for persistent volume, which will enable you to save your data and any other programs or Jupyter notebooks which you would want to work on a container and persist in case of the container goes down. I specified one GPU to be used for this container. You can increase the number of CPUs based on the number of GPUs you have, and minimum what is needed here is one GPU for this Docker image. I'll also use the host network for network connectivity. I'm going to install this Helm chart and see how my containers come up. My Helm chart is installed and I'm going to see how my deployment is happening. So this is the name of the Helm chart which we have installed, and its version is 2.0.1. I can see the deployment within that Helm chart and see the pods which are getting installed as part of this deployment. As of now, you can see that the container which is ready is 0, so it is still deploying. You can go into the pod and look at the logs under the event and see that the container has been started and it is getting instantiated. It takes a couple of minutes to get the container in the available state. So here you can see the desired count of container is 1, and yet that container is not available. It's still bringing it up. Now you can see that this container is in available state, and so the container is up and running. We can verify using a docker ps command, which shows that this container has been started a minute ago, and the name of the container is PowerAI iteration 1, which we have just deployed. You can exec into this container and you will have the runtime access for your PowerAI environment, PowerAI runtime environment, which means all your frameworks for deep learning and all the machine learning libraries are part of that runtime environment, and you are ready to start working on it. Just to see how we can exec into this container, I'm going to use docker exec and use the container ID to get into the shell of the container. I am within the container, and just to quickly verify what frameworks I have or whether my TensorFlow framework is available, I can activate my TensorFlow environment within the container and quickly check on what version of TensorFlow I have as part of this PowerAI image. So I've got 1.10 version of TensorFlow as part of this PowerAI 1.5.3 container. Once you have this container up and running, you can also use the scaling option in ICP to scale more container instances. Since I have 2 GPUs on this system, I'm going to scale this deployment to 2, which means another container is going to get instantiated to have a parallel environment for other user to run. So again, there are 2 instances which are desired, and the second one is still coming up. So within a minute you should see that this becomes available, the 2 containers become available. So now we can see that the 2 container instances are in available state. We can also verify at the command prompt if my 2 containers are up and running. This is the new container which has just started, and this is the previous container which we had deployed some time back. Just the way we scaled up, we can scale it down in case we want to remove some containers or free up some resources. So now I scale it down to 1 container again and see that my desired count is reduced to 1, and I have only 1 instance of the container running. So this is how I can deploy the PowerAI containers using ICP.